So good morning, everyone. Today we're gonna wrap up the last key from the 7 keys of optimum health. The last key discuss mental poise. We call it mental poise or mental health. I don't know if you are aware of the situation today or in the world, what's going on in terms of mental illnesses. How many people? It's about more than, definitely few million people are walking around us medicated with some kind of psychiatry drugs, strong ones, light ones, but I think I haven't managed to check, and I apologize, I haven't managed really to check the data, how much people are we talking about, but it's literally an epidemic what's going on in terms of psychiatric drugs and mental illnesses. So it's not something that we can take lightly. Maybe we don't know, a lot of people don't know the actual numbers and they think it's not there. But if you will just start picking into that world of psychiatry, you will be you will be very amazed and shocked how the things got into that state. There is a very good book that I recommend called Cracked by James Davis, and he explains about the DSM. The DSM is actually the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual for Psychiatry, and all the mental illnesses and all the disorders are written in that manual. He says, I'm not gonna talk too much about it because he has a 30 minutes lecture. You can look at it in YouTube. He says one thing that was shocking. He says in the 1960s, in that manual, they had 106 syndromes or disorders. Today, even before about 100, I think we're talking about 2013, we had 370. So nearly quadruple the amount of mental disorders. What I'm suggesting is that literally every normal behavior became abnormal and pathological. So things like shyness or a little bit of lack of confidence that we all suffer from. Today it's considered to be social anxiety or depression. Or so in that manual, the inflation of the manual shows that it's nothing to do with genetic. It has nothing to do with of course there's some environmental issues and we've changed and the way we live and the lifestyles, yes, but the amount is so huge today. And he proves in that book, he proves that the way this manual actually was established has nothing to do with what's going on really in the brain. Our brain is more complicated than the whole physical world. We don't have a Galileo for the brain or an Einstein for the brain. We don't have any great teacher or great scientist for the brain because nobody understands how the brain works. The brain is the most complicated organ in the whole universe. Yet we are allowed ourselves, especially in psychiatry, we are allowed ourselves to say, you have some kind of brain issues, brain damage, biochemical imbalance, and so on and so forth. So Cracked by James Davis, it's very interesting book. You can try and look at the website, at the YouTube talk, and just to get understanding how the DSM, which is the Bible of psychiatry, and that DSM actually leads psychiatrists when this is where they go to when they want to help people like us with some kind of psychological or psychiatric problems. So when we're talking about mental poise, we actually, if we try to define it in the Rambam's word as well, is that life has a lot of things to throw at us. We don't have the thread of life is not something that is constant. It's not something that is sturdy. It's not something that is stable. Life is not always stable, and they're not always sturdy. We have surprises, we have ups, we have downs. That's part of life, that's part of success, that's part of emotions, that's part of our journey. What we aim when we want to think about mental poise is that first, that we understand that this is part of the game, and we are not trying to reduce the noises in a very violent way. That's part of the game, and if it's part of Hashem's plan, so it's probably have an aim. So we need to not fight it, we need to just embrace it and try to find what is the message actually is. So once we understand that this is the pattern, this is life. Life is not always happiness and smiles, and sometimes we get angry, sometimes we get disappointed, sometimes we get sad. But once we understand that this is part of the game, it's going to be easier for us to manage life. The point is to understand that this is part of the structural, of the infrastructure that Hashem created for us. And sometimes we will be even lucky to realize what is the message here. But we know that every challenge and every difficulty is here for a reason. Yeah. The point is not to get discouraged. That is the whole point. So we have a lot of things going on in our life, but mental poise mean that things gonna happen, and you just have to, Baal Sulam calls it, to hug reality. To just hug it, to just first of all say thank you. Thank you for bringing this into my attention, because I was probably ignorant of this, and I was probably blind or deaf, and I wasn't listening. So the noise becomes louder and louder. If we're not listening to small little hints, then the noises become bigger and louder. And we can see it in Amen. We can see it very vividly in pain, physical pain, that we know that people, when the pain is very, very severe, then usually because there were little hints here and there and we weren't listening, so the body is starting to scream at us. It's the same with mental issues. The fact that life has a lot of things to throw at us means that we are capable of dealing with those things, and we need to read the map properly and to try to get up as quickly as possible. They asked, I think it was Rabbi Milubavitch, they asked him, what is his secret? What makes him so great? And he says, I fall down and I collapse as frequent as you do. But I don't stay down. I get up very quickly. Mm-hmm. And they asked Rizal also, they asked him what his secret, because he was having Ruach HaKodesh nearly all the time. When he was asked what is his secret, he says, Simcha, doing mitzvahs, doing our I don't know how to translate mitzvahs into English, but doing our work of Hashem, a work of God, with joy. This is the secret for being united with Hashem. So when we talk about mental poise, it's making sure whatever life throws at us, we are still stable. We can fall down for a little while, but we have to get back on our feet and to get our strength back together, making sure that we have the right connection, that we have people around us. We are social beings, and in our first 2 years, before we were born, when the fetus is in our mom womb, we were nourished by her blood and everything that she ate and she absorbed. And afterwards, after we were born, everything that made us bigger and help us grow was not just our mother's breast milk. It was also everyone around us. It was our father and my siblings and my auntie and my uncle and every single person that was around me is part of my brain. So we're not just made of our mother's milk, we are made of each other. Our brain is made of each other. And this is, we are so disconnected from other people today. The connection, the relationship are so centered and concentrated in our nucleus family today. The saying that it takes a village to raise a child is not really, we didn't have a village. We have to have the whole people should be interacted with us, because this is how we are. And if you look at people who are mentally ill or not happy mentally, it's usually something is messed up with their relationships, something seriously wrong with their relationship. So relationship with human beings is deadly crucial to mental health. And healthy relationship, not distorted relationship, but healthy relationship with other human beings is the key to have a solid, healthy mental poise. It's very childlike one of the things that we can see in children is that they're not really stable. They don't have, we call it in Kabbalah, they call it moichin. They don't have like solid mental faculty that works straight, that is stable, that is a higher level, that can see things from a higher perspective. They change their mind every second. They eating an ice cream, they see someone with a corn on a cob, they throw the ice cream, they want the corn on a cob. So they're not stable in terms of their mindset. They're always changing their mind, and they're always running around. This is, we can sometimes see it in adults as well, not as that frequent, but it's a very childish, not mature way to handle life and to view life as something that always need to change and always need to. And I don't have I don't have an aim. I'm not saying that changes are not healthy, but you have to have a plan. You have to understand what you really want. This is what Arav Yuval Cohen Ashraf says in many lectures, that few adults really can define what is their main purpose in life. Few, very few. A lot of people say things that are very, very broad, that they can't really say what is that they really, really want. What is the goal, the most precious thing for them. So children don't have that. They don't have a program. They don't have a value or an aim or a certain way, a path that they have decided, and they're going into that direction. Of course, they can have some adjustments along the route, but at least to know where you're going. When you know where you're going, when you know you have a purpose, it makes things very easier. Because sometimes, people in the Holocaust, the people who survived in the Holocaust were the people who wanted to revenge, who wanted to bring babies, who wanted to make sure that the Jewish nation will continue. They had a plan, they had a program, they had an aim. These were and they could have been a sack of bones. It's not about physical strength. It's about having a strong mind and a very strict plan. This is what I want to see the Germans, the Nazis getting destroyed. I want to see Hitler, Ymach Shemo, in prison. That was enough reason for them to fight whatever they had, and they didn't have much. It was literally a battle that was doomed to fail. But these are the people who wanted to stay alive, and the people who ran over to the fences to get themselves electrified. These are the people who didn't have any, you can call it hope. Yeah, it's a very, maybe it's related somehow, but when you have hope, it means you have something to aspire to. You have a plan, you have a belief, you have so the people who has nothing to do with physical health, it's just something very solid in your sechel, in your mind, in your brain, that is higher than reality, than what your senses can actually absorb from reality. So we can also see it in medicine. You remember the book of Bernie Siegel? It's another great book called Love, Love and Miracles, or maybe the words order is different, by Dr. Bernie Siegel, who treated cancer patients with many different ways, also chemotherapy, but he was a very holistic spiritual teacher, and he explains that we all aware of the placebo effect. It's something that we understand that works, the placebo effect. The mind is bigger than the physical realm, and that's the whole point of placebo effect. If you think that this shiur is going to be helpful for you, if you think when you stepped into that room today that you're going to leave this room with extensive knowledge and your expectations are great, and you think that it's something that's going to be beneficial for you and you can embrace it and you're going to learn and grow from it, most likely that this is what's going to happen to you. If you're coming with the assumption already, prerequisition or whatever you call it, that okay, I'm not sure what's going to happen, it's probably going to be nice, but it's going to be not really, I don't have really something solid about it. Or some people go just to, I'm not talking about just this show, but you're going to a friend, you're going to a meal, you're going to whatever you're doing, and you think in advance that it's not going to serve you, most likely that you're going to stick to that opinion even after the experience, because your brain is stronger than anything that's going on outside of your reality. And there is another aspect that we need to look at in our modern society. It's that constant conflict between quantity and quality. Today, in modern life, everything is about quantity. We want a lot, and we want it new. That's like my rabbi, and I totally agree with that. My rabbi gives the example of buying disposable plates. Yeah, when we do sometimes in meals, yeah, Shabbos meals or festive meals or any kind of, seudot, people, because they have 12 children or they have guests and they don't want to do the washing, or it's just cheaper and easier, they just buy these disposable tools, the disposable plates and everything, and you eat, and when you finish, you chuck it into the bin. He thinks there is something wrong, spiritually there is something wrong in it. He's not even discussing the planet and the garbage and the amount of rubbish that we produce that cannot be recycled, and we're destroying our planet. This is something that is not a theory. It's people who don't know that the problem we cause with too much consumption are just, they don't understand the facts. But there is something problematic by, I'm nourishing myself now, I'm eating, and then I'm throwing this to the bin. And he says that it's something that serves that culture of abundance and quantity, and having more and more, and always changing and new things, and purchasing more and getting more. He said it's much more healthy because it creates a lot of noise in our mind. All these changing and purchasing and throwing and buying, and it's very busy mind, and the whole point of meditation and mental health is to quiet the mind. So he recommends he's not saying what's better, quantity or quality, but he recommends in terms of, for instance, learning things, to focus on the same thing for a long time. Not to try to buy a new book every day, or to try to investigate a new way of whatever it is. Not pursue that new ideas, getting another inspiration from this or an inspiration from that teacher. Try to revisit the same thing, to go deeper and deeper each time you visit this, deeper and deeper, that's really helpful for the mind, because that creates stability. The mind associates stability and continuance with the truth. So the brain, every time the brain sees something that is continuing and stable, it associates this for being true. That's why we think that in Judaism we say that this life is Alma de Shikra, the Olam HaSheker. This life is not the eternal life. There is life after this life. But our brain cannot accept it, because our brain is wired to believe that whatever is stable and constant is true. So we're standing on this ground. It's a stable ground. This world is something that is familiar to us, is very stable for us. So we consider this life as the true life. Well, the life after this life, the eternal life, as we call in Judaism, it's something that it's very hard for our mind to grasp, because it's not stable and it's not something that we can experience at the moment. So it's really hard. So things that are constant, like revisiting the same shiur, I know from my experience that for me it works like a charm. My strength in what I'm learning, what I'm teaching people, is only repetition. I don't have any other secrets, just repetition. Repeating the same shiur, the same lecture, the same book, revisiting it. There is a saying in Hebrew that I say literally in every shiur: זורע ואינו ולומד ואינו חוזר, כזורע ואינו קוצר. Someone who studies and doesn't revisit, it's like, it's useless as sowing seeds and not coming back to harvest. It's really not smart. So if you want to know my secret, this is my secret. It's just keep revisiting. And I'm not, and if you're afraid that you're gonna get bored, actually it's the furthest thing from the truth, because it's a different text. Excuse me. So we discussed the brain a little bit. We discussed medication a little bit. We explained that the definition of mental poise is the idea of life is fluctuating. Life throws different things at us all the time. That's part of the plan. And our aim, our job, is to embrace it, to accept it, and to make sure we get up as quickly as possible with the right support all the time. We can't do it on our own. We are social beings. If we are on our own, it's probably not going to work. That's why in Judaism also, when I became a Baal Tshuva, I understood to my core why we have to get married. It's so obvious to me why we have to get married. It just doesn't work. I don't think you can. I mean, men, it's a mitzvah for them. It's an obligation for men to get married. It's not an obligation for women to get married, but it is an obligation for men. I don't know why for women it doesn't, because I think for the mental health, and not just for the mental health, for the total health of a being, even though it's two opposite under the same roof, that's the only way that you can actually draw from within and all your strengths, and that's the only way for you to really live your full potential. If you interacting with another human being constantly all the time. If you have kids, it's even more joyous and joyful, because we know that kids is as much as they bring us a lot of pleasure, they pull those secretive areas in our behavior that we didn't know that were there before we had kids. Like people said, I never used to scream before I had children. I never knew I was so angry, and I never knew I was so. And you fill up the gap. So they say in the Torah, they say lo tov heyot ha'adam levado. Lo tov heyot ha'adam levado means it's not good for the man to be on his own. And one of the Mefarshim says it's not that it's not good for the person to be on its own. The person cannot become good if he's on his own. That's one of the translations.
It's
so
very
you
depressing for me as a single person to hear all this.
From the
I know all about it.
From the point of the person, you cannot really express and work on that muscle of being caring and loving if you're not with another being all the time. Because then, you just you're working in a vacuum most of the time. Because if you have someone here that always asking you for things and always pushing you to the edge, then you're creating an environment for work, for a place to grow.
Motivates.
That's marriage. Yeah, you can't escape. Some people do escape. That's why divorce rates are skyrocketing, because they don't understand the plan. So they just say, okay, it's not for me, I'm leaving. But really the point is, as I said before, we are social beings, and we see it. This is literally what I see from my very small experience. I don't have like thousands of people in my resume that I've treated, but I have big eyes, and I always question things, and I always like, after interaction with people, it doesn't matter if they are close to me, it doesn't matter if they are my clients or not, I like to question things and to try to put them in boxes and patterns. And I've noticed that people who are depressed or people who are emotionally unstable, they have serious issues with relationships, with themselves and with others, and really you'll find that, like, natural hygiene is always saying that to be healthy doesn't cost you money, it doesn't cost you anything. It's Hashem, God, the creator, gave us everything we need for free in order to live to our full potential. So as the 7 key, we talked about nutrition, the first one, and we weren't talking about buying expensive kitchen appliances, or unfortunately today organic is very expensive, but it's because we created that situation. We created that problem with organic because we are just polluting everything and we want things to be quick. So there is so much hunger in the world, yet there's so much waste of food in the world. So it's not because this is what happened in nature naturally, it's because we created. Usually where there is hunger, there is a lot of corruption. You agree, Jan?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So the fact that now we have to spend so much money on organic, it's because we created that problem. And I don't know how aware you are with the situation with all the companies that are responsible for spraying our food and to produce the food in a way that is so toxic to human beings today, but it's something that we created. But health shouldn't cost money. It's about having good relationship with yourself, with Hashem, with your friends, with your family. It's about eating natural, small amounts of food, very small amounts of food, natural food that doesn't need to have. We have so many cooking books, so many cooking books. Wow, people don't know how to prepare food. Or maybe they do it before because it's a hobby or it's something to talk about, or changing recipe is the most insulting thing. If you want to discuss recipes with me, you just lose me on the spot. Changing recipes. Getting into the kitchen and making dinner is something that we should never forgotten. It's the easiest thing on earth to do. So it's all for free. It's the food, it's the air, it's the water. Again, water is also something that we created, that issue with the water, that the water are not clean. In the beginning, everything was much cleaner. Activity, we talked about another key, was exercise or physical activity. We don't have to pay membership fees to the gym. People go to the gym in order to exercise. We don't have to do that. Then we need to create artificial movement. It's something that we just can do for free if we just don't have these expensive cleaning tools that you don't have to even bend over because it's all automatic, or driving the car everywhere, or having a cleaner. I'm not judging anyone. Some people are doing it because they're busy, but having a cleaner because you can't move, because you're physically disabled, so you can't even move. So what you do not use, you lose. So you're making it worse. Why? By entertaining that disability and having more and more. We see it in residential care homes. When people are coming into these residential care homes, they can still be active, like couples, that the couple comes because one of the couple, the wife maybe is very disabled and the husband cannot look after her anymore, so they both admit themselves into a care home. Well, just the wife really needs the help, but slowly but surely, or maybe not really slowly, quickly and surely, both of them become more disabled than ever, because everything's been done for them. They don't have to clean their room, they don't have to do the shopping, they don't have to move. So what you do not use, you lose.
They sit in a chair from morning to
They sit in the chair,
unless they have to go to
and
the
they've been
bathroom.
cared.
I've seen it.
The staff in the my husband worked in two care homes for many years, and he literally, I remember years and years ago, he said to me, I can see it now here. He saw it in his own eyes, how quickly they deteriorated, because it's better for the system that they will be taking in a wheelchair, for instance, to the toilet, instead of them walking for a few minutes, and then somebody needs to support them, so they need extra stuff. So also it's about money and it's about efficiency. But I'm going back to the 7 keys, they all shouldn't cost money. Being healthy shouldn't cost you any money. Moving, eating, breathing, drinking, sunbathing, resting. People think they have to buy these expensive mattresses with all the springs and all the... No, just go to sleep. Just rest, open the window, go to sleep, have a proper amount of hours in bed. And the last thing, which is we haven't finished yet, but it's mental poise, which also is about relationship. It's about understanding how life is really working, that everything that is brought into our reality is here for a reason, and we are so tiny and our vision is so narrow, and we are allowing ourselves to judge the whole picture with a very, very limited vision, and we say, oh, this is wrong, oh, this is bad, oh, this is evil, oh, this is... And we have to remember that everything that happens to us, we have first to embrace, then to thank. If you're not going to embrace, and then you can ask, you can pray, please show me, what is this message trying to tell me? What is the job of that incident or interaction? And I with my very, very small experience, I find it very easy to handle if you just ask to understand. Because if somebody is really stubborn and asking and begging, then the tools will be given to them. So first understanding, then embracing, and then being grateful, being humble as well. Because the whole point of depression, I never heard it, it's my crazy theory, but depression comes from vanity. From where I see it, depression actually comes from vanity, because depression says, I know that I don't deserve that. I know that I deserve more. I think this is all wrong and it shouldn't be like that. And also, I'm allowing myself to forecast the future, so I'm getting depressed because tomorrow everything is going to be the same. So you become a prophet, you know everything, and you lose hope because you don't understand that you can grow and you can... So I think there is some kind of relationship between depression and pride and being... And I think humbleness is something that we ought we all ought to embrace more, because I see it in many illnesses and in many conditions that people literally suffer from not being humble enough. So I just want to emphasize that part again when we talked about quantity and quality, because I think we just we had some interference in the middle, but I was talking about quantity and quality. And one of the problem with the mind, that it's always noisy and always chattering, is the fact that we trying to be multitasking, or trying to change a lot of things, or trying to study so many things, or even too much of a good thing. You know, too much of a good thing is also damaging. Is also damaging. And Rabbi Nachman Breslev says that if you are accurate, then you are protected. I'm just freely translating this from Hebrew. If you're accurate, even Shelton said it, the Rambam said it, everybody said it in different ways. But if you're accurate, what does it mean by accurate? You know the exact balance of what you are taking in from this world, and in terms of all the 7 keys. The food, obviously, we know that if we take too much, even if it's good food, the Rambam said, too much of good food is more damaging your health than small amounts of bad food. So we know in food, this is very obvious. We know in rest, if you rest too much, you're gonna get into a very degenerative state, when your muscles, your muscle mass is gonna drop, and you're gonna, like I explained with a residential care house, what happens to people. So this is too much rest in a way, yeah. If you expose too much to the sun, people they trying to get sophisticated, so they put sun creams, or they put a different t-shirt. Get out of the sun. You don't have to stay there if it's not comfortable. Baruch Hashem, we had signs that tells us all the time if we should be there or we shouldn't. Yeah. So if you are in the sun and you're feeling that it's too much, don't try to trick yourself. Don't try to put anything. Put a bigger hat, staying underneath the shade. Just leave the place. Every time we're trying to mess about with nature, we're gonna lose. So that's another example. If you do too much exercise, yeah, if you work too much, it's another problem. You're gonna get serious issues. We know with athletes and people who do extreme sports, they are very prone to health problems. There are many athletes and Olympic sport people who died very early, or when they get old, they get old very ugly. Because the fact that they are fit has nothing to do with being healthy. Being fit and being healthy are two separate things. As we learn in the 7 keys for optimum health, you have to acquire the whole 7 keys. And they are not negotiable. You cannot say to yourself...
What are the 7 keys?
The 7 keys are nutrition and fasting. That's the opposite of nutrition. So food, fasting, rest. The opposite of rest is exercise, sun and environment, water, air, yeah. And sun and environment, water, and then mental poise. That's the 7th one. So each of the keys is not negotiable. You cannot say, okay, because I'm very good at sports, I can just eat whatever I want, or I shouldn't be really careful with the way I eat. So in every one of these 7 keys, we reached the 4th with the sun. We said that we can't be too exposed to the sun, but in another way, we know that in England, in Manchester, when it's very dark in February or in March or in April, you get depressed because there's too little sun, and it affects our brain. It affects the hormone system as well. So it's too little. That's another problem. If you drink too much, you can get water poison. Yeah, you can destroy your mineral balance in your body if you drink too much. If you don't drink much, you can die very quickly, quicker than if you're not going to eat Yeah, so you have to keep yourself hydrated. So it's all about doing the right amount of
Balance.
about those things. And if we're looking at mental health, then again, even in mental health, you can do too much thinking. Yeah, you can be repeatedly thinking the same thought over and over again. That's going to bring you into disease as well. So you need to make sure that even the way you think is the right amount. Yeah, we are allowed to be angry. Nobody's a saint. We can be angry, we can be sad, we can be, but we can't stagnate and stick to the emotions and even have these repeated emotions going on in our brain all the time, because that's gonna bring us into imbalance, and from imbalance you are certain to get disease and illness. It's not easy to control the thoughts, but it's something we can certainly work on. And the whole Torah, the whole Judaism is based on these. It's all in our books. How to deal with the mind, the nefesh. It's all us. I mean, Moses and Jacob and all Adam Arishon, and every person in that Chumash, in those 3 books, is us. Is forces inside of us that tells us who we are and how we should behave in a way. So if you have any questions about mental health, mental poise, or questions about the whole 7 keys in a row, as a whole, then please do ask.
Say about depression, it isn't. I don't think it's quite as simple as that to say it's either, because I can speak from very bitter experience what I had with my great loss, and it's not for 1 second. I mean, we weren't brought up to be Gaibalik at all.
To be
proud, to be, to have Gaiva, to think that we know best, but feelings can overtake the logic. And if something happens unexpectedly, I can't see that it's anything but not natural. It wouldn't be not natural. It wouldn't be natural not to feel
depressed.
Yes, I mean, especially yes.
So depression is natural.
It's still a case of coping with it. The matter.
So you're actually saying that depression is natural.
I'm not saying it's at times it can be.
That's why in Judaism we have the 7 days of Shiva. We have the 7 days of Shiva. If we understand the logic, the chokhmah that is behind it is to help us deal with it while we are surrounded with a lot of love and support, so we can get it over with.
After the Shiva,
get it over with.
It's just the opposite. You see, it's a complete opposite, and then they're there, and then you're on your own, son, basically.
I'm not saying that depression is easy, but I'm saying that depression is something that happens if you don't do the job. It's just something that, there are some things that we need to do. If we don't make sure we are on the right track, then depression is inevitable.
But I've read that some people have things going well in their lives, and they, in many, many ways, and they suffer from Baruch Hashem. That's not me, chas v'shalom, but I've got this is an inner pain I have, which causes me to feel very despondent and sad because of something that's happened to me that was, to lose somebody that's part of your life.
But everybody loses people all the time.
It doesn't make it any easier.
No, I'm just saying.
Pain.
So we
I understand.
No, I'm asking something else. We all lose people in our lives.
Yes,
Everybody. So actually, from what you're saying, that we are all in the verge of depression.
I think when people have lost somebody, that's
what I'm saying. I'm suggesting if for some people it didn't happen.
It can't be the same person. You can't go around.
No, it's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if some people experience a loss, and we know,
Unexpected, somebody...
It doesn't matter if it's unexpected.
Right.
You know,
No, it does
I
make
know
it-
people who had a child who was ill for years, and then when he died, it was
It's always
the
the
fact
wrong
that
time.
it was expected. I don't know if you can expect that. I don't know if you can
I
expect.
understand what you're saying. It's always the wrong time. It's always a pain.
It's always something that you
you'll never be
reject, and that's the point. Doesn't matter if you expect it or not, you reject it.
Like somebody said to me, we know these things are going to
Just
happen.
a minute, let me
Right,
just
okay.
answer your
Sorry,
question
sorry,
because I
sorry.
think I got the question right.
All right.
So you're asking, if I rephrase the question, you're saying that depression is natural, and you're saying that in some cases, depression is something that you cannot avoid.
No.
Okay, and you've known cases when people were depressed, and you couldn't see any other way for them. So actually what you're saying, if I'm just trying to rephrase it, is there are some cases when you cannot just avoid depression.
But some people are more prone to depression, like they're prone to this and to that and to certain conditions.
Okay.
Both
Okay,
emotionally
I
and
can
physically.
relate that some people are more prone, like
Yeah,
some people
yeah,
are
I'm
more
not-
prone to get angry,
Yeah,
and some
yeah,
people are more
exactly.
prone to gain
Yeah.
weight.
Could be...
Because that in that
It's in their
aspect,
system.
no, what is the system? The system is fluctuating all the time. The system is not your genetics. When you say it's my system, it means that it's nothing to do with me and it's not my responsibility, and there is nothing I can do to help myself. That's when you say it's in the system, that's the first thing to jump into my mind, that I can't help it, and I can't agree with that. I'm sorry. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but from what I understand, that everything is in our hands. I mean, our health is in our hands.
Up to a point. Up to a point. You can do all the right things. I've known people who have lived the way you would want, us want to live, and unfortunately they have died of cancer. They never smoked.
You can't.
And people have
There's
told
no
me.
way you
I
can
know a
have
woman who's
cancer
nearly
in a
90 and she's been smoking for
don't think
70
so.
years.
No, I
and she
don't. I
told
don't
me
do science that
she has
way.
no health issue with
Yeah,
it.
but I
with
don't
her.
do science that way. I mean,
Well,
a
I'm
lot
not
of people say a lot of things, but you cannot have cancer in a healthy, clean, functioning, well body. You can't have cancer. You can't.
You mean young children who are dying of cancer? They've...
You can't develop cancer in a healthy body. You can't. It's just impossible.
Well, something happens to the cells beyond your control. Sometimes you can't.
No, there's no such thing. There's no such thing. There's no guarantee, but there are laws. I mean, Hashem is promising us throughout the Torah. If you follow the guides, if you follow the guidelines, if you follow the rules, if you do what I say, if you listen to my mitzvahs, if you do exactly what I say, no disease will come to you. Rambam literally promised to us. He says, "I guarantee you." I guarantee, these are the words of the Rambam in Mishneh Torah. You are more than welcome to open Ilchot Deot, Perek Dalet, Mishneh Torah. The Rambam says, and he's not just talking about Briut HaGuf, he's also talking about the Briut HaNefesh, also talks about the mental health. Right. If you do what I say, no disease will come to you. You will die in old age without any need of a doctor. So if you want to argue with the Rambam, he's buried in Tiberias. I can't argue with him because my rabbi promised me.
Well, next time I go to Israel, which I hope is sooner rather than later,
my rabbi promised me that the Rambam was so accurate. He measured every word so many times.
Sure, he did.
So when you say depression, when you say some people are prone, I can relate to that because some people, I think they just don't do the work. Don't do the job. We all had, I mean, I can't really talk from Baruch Hashem from personal experience, but we heard the Holocaust is a very good example because so many people lost their loved ones in the Holocaust. Some of them got completely wrecked, and some of them came to Israel, brought, I just heard yesterday, Rabbi, I don't remember what was the name. It was one of the great rabbis who lost literally everyone from his family, and he came back to Israel and he brought Yeshivat Ponovich. He established Yeshivat Ponovich, and people. And when he asked one of the he came to see one of the people in Israel for funding, and they heard because he was, I mean, literally lost everyone in the Holocaust. And when he came to Israel and decided to establish Yeshivat Ponovich, and he came to talk to one of the leaders, the rabbis, I don't know who, literally there was no leadership, no religious leadership at all. There was nothing. And one of the assistants that heard the conversation said about the rabbi, I think the rabbi lost his mind. I mean, that he has even in his mind to create something like that in this situation. So we know, and we learned this from the crystal eye, which is, we talked about the crystal eye a little bit, which is, the crystal eye is basically another stream of natural health that my rabbi teaches, that actually says that everything that you see on the outside is a reflection of things that happening inside of you. So if you are experiencing, if you see things that you think that are not related to you, but they generate some kind of emotion or some kind of rejection, then you need to clean it inside of you. So he says that the problem is always something inside of you and has nothing to do with, like, people say, okay, the government is corrupted and these evil people are want to destroy us. And he says that if we heal ourselves, clean ourselves, make sure we are dealing with the right way with the forces in our personal space, then they will vanish. They will not going to be there, these enemies. So these external enemies are actually a reflection of what's going on in our body. So depression, I'm answering Hannah's question, depression is wearing the wrong glasses, in one simple sentence. When you are allowing yourself to be depressed, is because you have some basic assumptions and you're viewing the world from these limited glasses. As we talked about, people from the Holocaust, the people who wanted to stay alive, the people who want to bring babies and come to Israel and get married and build the kibbutz and whatever they did, it's because they had the right glasses. They thought that the Jewish nation will thrive forever and nothing's going to destroy them and nothing's going to destroy us. And doesn't matter how much I weigh, if I even weigh 30 kilos, I'm going to go to Israel and I'm going to get myself healthy and I'm going to do whatever I can in order to make it worth for my ancestors, for my fathers who died in the Holocaust, to justify their death. I'm going to prove them that it was justified to die because I'm going to continue the legacy. So that's the definition. That's how I see depression. And depression literally doesn't happen overnight. Depression is like cancer doesn't happen overnight. Like depression is the cancer of the mind. You don't have cancer overnight. Even babies who have cancer, it's because they grew up in a very toxic womb. And their mother and their father were probably very toxic. So everything they contributed, the sperm and the egg, because the baby is also made of some physicality. The baby is not just a soul and a mind. Is created from some substances that the mother contributed and the father contributed. And if the mother during those 9 months was also contributing to this baby's toxicity, then it's no wonder that this baby is not going to be healthy. So that's how I see depression. Any other questions? No, John?
No, I like to think about revisiting and accuracy. And I think what I've noticed is that when I go over things, it's not just I'm going over something that's the same that I already know, because I see new things. So there's something about
Revisiting.
And there's something about what I bring to it each time that's different. That means I notice
your experience. It's
things.
A different model of you, and I couldn't agree more with you. And if I'll try to even put it in perspective, I would say that if I will study the same book that I've already studied for 10 times, I can even say that 80% of what I'm going to read is going to be new. So the majority is going to be new things. So you can assure
really
yourself you're not going to get
interesting.
bored by revisiting things. Because you have different glasses and we are changing all the time. We know that that's actually the Rabbi Nachman Breslev. I want to finish up with this because it's a very powerful statement of Rabbi Nachman Breslev, and there is a saying. He says, "En shum yeush ba'olam klal." Familiar with that? There is no. There's 5 words. En shum yeush ba'olam klal. There is no. En shum. Yeush is despair. At all in the universe. So the word despair, he wasn't talking about depression, he was talking about despair. Despair. I mean, I give up. I'm not going to even try. That's the definition. So Rabbi Nachman Breslev says that there is no such thing as being despair. As to feel despair is no such thing. In the world, not today, not tomorrow, not with a certain group of people, but globally in the world, there is no such thing. And when Rabbi Nachman Breslev says there is no such thing, and we say, no, there is such thing, then again, we have to go and argue with Rabbi Nachman Breslev, as the same way we're going to argue with the Rambam. Because he says, if you think you feel despair, then you're not reading them up properly. There is no such thing. There's not even a small bit of it. And people say, but it's real. I can feel it. I feel it. It's real. And he gave the example of you can watch a film, and it can be very scary film and very frightening, up to the point that some people can experience a heart attack. But the film isn't real, but the heart attack is totally real. So when he says there is no despair in the world at all, and shum yeush ba'olam klal, he meant to say that objectively there is no such thing. But you can dream on, you can revive certain feelings, and you can interpret the reality in such a way that you can watch a horror film and believe it to be the truth. And then you can physically experience the whole scenario of if it was something true. So there is no such thing. And if I can
So that's
link
the thing
that
about falling and getting up quickly, isn't it? Sort of despairing and saying I'm down and
falling and getting up quickly. Falling and getting up quickly, I think, is
and I'm stuck.
Is related to the fact that you're saying to yourself, again, that what happened yesterday, because the definition of despair is to say to yourself, I'm stopping. I'm not going anywhere. I'm sticking right here. I'm not going to try to fight anyone. I'm not going to try to change anything. I'm just going to be in this misery for the rest of my life, and I'm doomed, and it's done. Why? Why do I allow to say to myself? Because this is what happened yesterday, and this is how I felt a month ago, and this is how I felt a year ago, and there is no reason why tomorrow this is going to be any different. So you become a prophet as well. This is the definition of despair, of Yeush. What happened yesterday is definitely what's going to happen tomorrow. This is not understanding Hashem rule in the world, because Hashem always reviving us. The Vaipach be'apav nishmat chaim. It says in the Chumash Bereshit, Vaipach be'apav nishmat chaim. Hashem, God, blew in Edom's nose, he blew in his nose a spirit of life. People think that it stopped there. Okay, so Hashem is not doing that anymore. Hashem is doing that every single moment. He's reviving us. He's helping us to breathe. He's providing us with air and life every single moment. So to say what happened yesterday is gonna happen tomorrow, this is not understanding how Hashem is ruling the world. It's illogical. So there's nothing to do. Depression, it's insane in a way. It doesn't understand the logic of the universe. and you cannot, you won't win having a, forgot the word, intelligent conversation or a logical conversation with someone that is not logic. You cannot have that conversation. You can only talk the same language. So, because there are no more questions, I will finish for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.